when one of the OGs in the game steps out and calls you out, then I think that you really messed up. So when KSI came out and called out Adin Ross for being a fraud and being a bum of a person and being broke, I knew that he had done something terribly wrong.
I think he feels like he's a boss because of the whole kick thing. From what I've heard, he has like a tiny ass percentage. He's got a big dick because of it. Let him roam around with his little cock, trying to think he's a big dog, but like, it's a different level.
Lil Cock is literally insane. So a couple years ago when Kick was founded, they appointed Adin Ross to be not only a brand ambassador, but as Adin reported, a owner with some sort of stake in the company. Now, he went around flaunting about the company and how good it is, and most importantly, how influential he is to the brand and what he can bring as far as value goes. But as we've seen over the couple of years, not only has his power not really shown itself like that because he can't get a lot of the people to come over to the platform, he can't get his friends a lot of those deals, but also the platform in and of itself is terrible. They've got all these kids stepping out doing illegal things and being menaces to society on the platform, and a lot of people are fed up with it, and KSI is just the next person to come out and speak publicly about it. And I've always had skepticisms of how much Adin Ross really owns in the company, because when you say just vague things, it makes people question the legitimacy. It's almost like that six-figure number, like when people say, oh, I make 6 figures, but 9 times out of 10 when somebody says that, they're literally at the bottom of the totem pole. 999,000 is not what they're making.
So like with me and Adin, I'd slap him in the face.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd slap
him.
It's obviously it's all started from the boxing stuff. That's even to the point where I don't even want to go and kick now because of Adin. I just think he's a bit of a dickhead.
And you know what? I'm gonna have to agree again with KSI here, only because when Adin Ross does certain things, I feel like it's never with real intentions or never with the real getting to the meat and potatoes or caring about the people involved in these situations, their health or well-being, or doing whatever they're doing right. So Adin Ross and Kick had these boxing events where it was similar to, you know, Misfits, or they get content creators together and host a boxing event. And normally these things go through the right train of action and, you know, they get the right people down there. But from my understanding, it seems like Adin Ross cut a lot of corners, and at his March 23rd event, a young content creator actually got some brain damage because of how they were officiating the boxing match.
Because of our last event, one of those fat fucks got like brain damage and complained. The fucking commission, they basically got mad. We cannot do boxing no more. We can either do MMA, full-on MMA, or we can do kickboxing. So I think we run kickboxing because it's the same exact format we've been doing, except they're allowed to just kick. I say we run kickboxing for 2 events, and then if we don't fuck with it, we could just go straight to MMA.
So instead of taking a fighting sport seriously, stuff where people can get seriously injured, his obvious answer is to call this guy a fat fuck who complained to the Florida Commission that, hey, I got a brain injury. We're gonna ignore him, we're gonna ignore what happened to him, and not even like taking into consideration how much training actually needs to be done in this newfound sport that he's trying to take on. Not worried about the rules, regulations, just, hey, it's the same thing, we can just kick now. I could only think that that's like one of the reasons that KSI would have a huge problem with, you know, Adin Ross and what he's doing. He's not taking something that KSI, his brother, some of the people in their boxing collective have taken seriously for years at a time. KSI used to be very heavy into YouTube and, you know, making content and stuff like that, and he has put a lot of that stuff on the back burner to take boxing seriously, which is commendable. But for Adin Ross, he just thinks of it as 2v2 basketball or something like that. Just throw a ball out there and get it popping.
The competition's good. He's got his own boxing thing going on. When you've got allegedly his fan base doxing our event and making it, you know, slowing it down for two hours, making people have to leave the venue, having police come in, have to check around to see if there's a...
But see, that's what happens when you run a platform like you've been running for the past couple of years, and you've been encouraging your mostly young male audience to behave in the certain way that they behave. They take things too far because you may even encourage some of the behavior, whether it's implicitly or explicitly. You start to run into a problem when these things start to bite you in the butt. And I know Adin's not serious about any of these boxing endeavors, but KSI and their boxing brand would be a very good place or people to partner up with in order to further the connections and further the longevity of the platform that Adin Ross is trying to run. But because you're burning those bridges, eventually they're going to catch up to you. And hell, it's in the name of content, so who really cares at the end of the day? But ultimately, seeing it come to bite them in the butt in real time is not only disappointing, but at the same time satisfying, because you reap what you sow at the end of the day. And apparently this is a long-standing beef from KSI when it comes to Adin Ross. He tweets at Adin first, he replies to Adin, he keeps making multiple tweets. KSI says that he would slap him, this, that, and the third. And if you don't think that KSI has a bunch of influence on other influencers who are looking for a new streaming home, and he can just kind of persuade them to not go over there, and I think you would sadly be mistaken. And to be truthful, if KSI wanted to get into streaming with all the other people that are in his collective, then I think that it would be a good bet to say that they would be able to pull in more numbers and more influence than like the edgy stuff that Aiden Ross and his collective do. And I know that might sound crazy because Aiden Ross is one of the premier streamers in this world, but we got to think about who KSI, the Sidemen, and everybody else he's affiliated with are versus who an Aiden Ross is.
There's rumor mill says that Aiden Ross offered the main event money to ruin your event. Do you think Most Wanted received payment from a source?
I'd like to say no. If I did see him, for example, on an Aiden Ross show, then it's on site.
Yeah,
he can do what he wants, but I was just very disappointed.
Look, this looks like it's setting up to be a great war. We're talking about Infinity War. We're talking about J. Cole and Drake versus Kendrick Lamar in Future. This is setting up to be a great big event, but ultimately the reason why this is all started to me is because of Aiden Ross and the brand and the platform that he has. Hearing that there's some sabotage in the mix, potentially, honestly, it wouldn't even surprise me at this point. And it's sad to see that KSI would be willing to give Aiden Ross the fair one because of these decisions that are made. But you know, who am I to step in from some great content? Because I know I'm gonna be there covering this whole thing. Is this a result of years of building up a reputation only to cross the line where people aren't really even willing to hear you out or give you any grace or anything like that? Because at some point that stuff does have to catch up to you, I would have to think. But let me know what you guys are thinking. That's crazy to me.